Okay, so we're featuring a body of work from a watcher of the show here, I think. Someone who sent me some stuff anyway. I think sometimes people just want to be on YouTube. They don't actually even watch the show.
Maybe.
I think that there's people out there that they send their work to every YouTube channel that they think might show their work.
Why not?
You know what I mean?
You should do it too.
No, I don't know fucking way. I've got enough of me out there as it is. I don't need any more attention.
All right.
That's the last thing I want. You seen me at the convention. It's like, ugh, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That was funny. So this one says David Jorkura. I
don't know how you say his name, but I know the guy. I know the artist.
Jorkura? Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Chest.
It's a different language.
Toxic belly. I think that's how you say that. Touching up / whitening in July. Josh Duffy right ribs. 2 more sessions in November. Josh Duffy hand. Jeremiah Barba inner outer calf, and again inner outer calf lower sleeve. So we got a couple different artists working on this guy.
I know a few of these artists. This guy's going to some heavy hitters, but it's clear he started off with not so good up top. Right, you can see up there it wasn't as good as what he's getting now.
Yeah, well, what he's getting now is quite nice.
Yeah, I like this stuff. My immediate instinct with it is always I would like this much more if it was a color. Right, because these guys, there are guys that do this thing in black and gray, and there are guys that do this with color elements, and I always prefer the heavier versions of it, but this is fairly nice.
I really like it. It reminds me, it's kind of like H.R. Geiger-esque.
Yeah, it's straddling that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's again you're in that bioorganic / biomech realm of shapes and textures and things
monster parts.
They don't necessarily make sense in a traditional sense. I find they make great cover-ups, and I think it's going to be pretty easy to go over most of this with this stuff because nothing has to be exact. It's all just kind of amorphous. And that's where I get the confusion about all of my torso and my left arm with Brick. It's people want to know what it is. It's we seen with you with that tiger. It's oh, that's a tiger.
Yeah.
And then everything is forgiven. It doesn't matter. As long as you recognize what it is, it's
good.
It does a thing to a consumer where it's oh, look how good that is. But this is there'll be some moron out here that looks at this and they'll be what is it? It's just a bunch of stuff. I don't know what it is.
I think for me, what makes these style of work really good is the transition between pieces.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots that I love about this stuff.
You got your teeth, and then there's a texture transition to sinewy flesh. I don't think that is necessarily super easy for.
Well, it has an abstract sort of face happening, right?
Right, but I think that these transitions, and then knowing how your anatomy is gonna fold and bend and wrinkle and push.
Texturing is a fucking crazy high level thing, and most artists don't even think about that.
Well, I think it's a lot of attention paid to skin and bits and stuff, right?
And a lot of realism that you'll see these days, if you look at it, there's no texture.
Oh, I know.
There's none. I don't mean there's a little texture.
No, there's absolutely zero
no
texture.
There's enough there to tell you what it is, and no more. It's you have the bare bones. You've got a nose, you've got eyes, and you've got a mouth. Everything else is just brushed over.
Yeah.
It's
well, I mean, that's because
the brain is filling in everything else.
The texture part is I think the hard part.
That's the hard part. It's the time-consuming part, right? Although, in this stuff, I don't think a lot of this took a whole ton of time because a lot of it is just kind of softly brushed in and moved away from. But if you get into the color variants of this, it takes an absurd amount of time.
Well, because then you're trying to create shine and shadow. Yeah. And your play with light and dark isn't just one tone of flesh or the other. You're using blues and purples and making them interact with each other.
Why I think the black and gray version is more appealing for a lot of people is, for one thing, it's softer looking, and then also it's even when you're in crazy, like demonic, like body horror stuff, like it's easier on the eyes for some reason. It's not as like garish to people.
Yeah,
you know,
I can see what you're saying.
like
there.
it just kind of, I think because there's still negative space. I've really been working on this theory in my mind that, and I've talked about it before on here, but like I honestly think that when people don't see negative space, they don't recognize that as another human or something. It's like part of our pattern recognition or something. It's like if you don't see negative space, it's like you don't recognize that as another person.
Alien or something.
Yeah, like that's why when people have full face tattoos, they look kind of like non-human, right? Because you don't see. First off, if they have their eyes tattooed, like the
It's
whites
the
of their
eye
eyes,
tattoos that I think really like
full
change
face,
it.
like, but full face changes, and I think it's because we need to see that human skin there to recognize it as a human being, or else it's something else.
And our brains are programmed to pick like the human face out of like random
I think we do
shapes.
it more than just the face. I think we do it with everything.
Yeah.
And I think that we haven't really given that a hard study, because first off, what is the purpose of that? And like, who gives a fuck really? Because it's not like everybody has full color tattoos, and this is some big problem we have to figure out. But this looks more forgiving to me than the color version of it, or like the heavy black with red, right, that Masakrov is doing. So, but it's cool. I like this stuff a lot. Like, it's still got a really dark look. It's just, to me, I would go darker with it. Like, this is not the most appealing version of this.
I just think some of it can maybe have a bit higher contrast for me.
Yeah, because like when this is healed, because this is very obviously a fresh photo, it's a lot of this is going to be very soft.
Well, I don't think there's a true black. Like
There's
a
some.
bit, but like I don't think there's like any large spaces of true black.
They do a thing where they're creating a lot of depth with the darkest points, right?
Yeah.
Next to those little slivers of negative space, it really has this kind of, this is sticking out of his skin kind of vibe. But everything about it is like, if I think of a monster face, it should almost be like thicker looking. It looks almost too like washy for me. Like it's very well done work. There's no disputing that, but it just looks too like softly shaded. I would like more aggression in the shading personally. And if he was doing color, it would be easier to cover that tribal in the center.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they've just framed around it. I wonder if there was something under. I don't think there's anything under the parts.
It
that they've
doesn't really
done.
look like it to me, but
So I'm wondering what this does. There's no way he's going to keep that tribal in there. So I'm sure they're going to blast over it with
something.
white and black. But then, to me, it's like they should have started with opaques, because
Then you're looking more uniform, right?
yeah, just having like the center of that be done with opaques and black is going to have a completely different value than all of the rest of it. And it will. Like, I've never seen opaques that look like negative space. I've never seen any ink go in that looks like negative space. And then this photo is just so dark, it's hard to tell what's going on. But
Some
like,
sort of skull face.
this is this stuff anyway, right? Like, it's like weird smoke and texture
and wispy
bumps and teeth.
sinewy weirdness. Yeah, I always think this stuff is really cool.
Whenever anyone asks me, like, what is that? It's like, what do you think it is? Like, it's clear as day, just monster stuff.
Yeah, it's like
Like,
some
why does it
sort
have
of
to be a cat in the wild for it to be?
eldritch horror thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why does
It's
it
like
have
some
to
sort
be?
of crazy alien.
Why does it have to be something that we could recognize in reality, or else it doesn't work?
It's the cover of A Day to Remember, according to most people.
Oh, that's such a stupid fucking. And then, yeah, there are some parts in here that are recognizable. It's like, this looks like more of a skull than some of the other kind of amorphous.
I like the use of like the shading spaces.
Look at the inflammatory response.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting his inner bicep tattooed, so all of his side goes red.
Yeah.
I've never had anything like that.
I think that the swelling probably has traveled down, like down his armpit.
He's bruised
into his
down that
torso.
far. Like, I think sometimes maybe call it a session, you know?
Yeah.
Like, maybe you don't need to do these torture sessions. Like, I have a friend that's just booked in for like a whole couple days of work. Like he's got like 3 days in a row with an artist he traveled to see. It's like he's already paid him the money up front and all this shit. And
Good, he's gonna die.
It's like this is not how tattoos should be done.
It's how some people do them, though.
I don't like this approach.
I don't either.
Because it's just like you're traumatizing the fuck out of your body, and when you do that, the work isn't going to heal as well. And it doesn't matter if you think it does or not, because most people aren't under a lens looking at it, right? I am, and it never heals the same. And then you'll risk scar tissue, possible infection, all of these things, and you have a terrible experience. Right? You have a terrible time sitting through these things.
Yeah, it's like, it sounds like 3 days of absolute misery. Like, I would rather have, like, the worst cold I've ever had than be tattooed 3 days in a row.
Well, I mean, tattooed 3 days in a row is one thing. That's fine.
But, like,
But like these are not small sessions.
No,
we're
but
talking like I'm getting my whole such and such done.
That's kind of what I mean. Like these large sessions that are like full day slogs.
Yeah,
I would rather have like the worst flu that I've ever had.
The worst way to experience tattooing, right? Like, and I've done all forms of this. I've done big sessions, small sessions, and everything in between. I blacked out my entire back twice, right? And like, if I was to think of tattooing every time like that, like that's the experience, I wouldn't get tattooed anymore, right? Because like that's fine now and then, that's like a stunting type thing, but like that's not a good day, right?
Sounds
and
like
you
an
feel
awful day.
Beat up afterwards, and it takes longer for the work to heal. And it's just like if that was every memory I had with tattooing, I wouldn't be working on the amount of layers I am. So I think some people really give themselves kind of the wrong idea of tattooing and set themselves up for future failures too. Yeah, these sessions here, the one side each that he did, I think that's a decent amount to do in a session. I don't think going much more than that is reasonable for most people. And in saying that, I mean, obviously I had my full back blacked out, but again, stunting. Right?
Yeah.
This is a reasonable amount to do in a session. I'm really curious as to the approach of how they're going to cover the rest of this back and make it line up.
Do you think they're going to, or do you think they're just going to work around everything and he's just going to keep the old stuff?
There's no way he's getting that level of quality on the sides and leaving that mess of tribal and whatever in the center there. So I would be very curious to see how that's going to turn out there. This is his front, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So then, get rid of the other nipple too. There's no need for that.
Yeah, and it's like right in a perfect spot where you could just like throw some soft.
I just don't
black
understand
gray on
doing one and not the other.
I don't know.
Because like, it's not like that black going over a little further.
Maybe
would
that was meant
design.
to be a skin break spot.
No, but that's what I'm saying is like it doesn't really make a difference if it's.
Yeah, I know. I would just bring the black up for shits and giggles.
Because like the skin break or black, it makes no difference to this design at all. Like no difference.
Yeah, well, that's if it was me,
So,
I would aesthetically, I would just bring it up. It doesn't change anything.
The nipple is the first thing my eye found.
I know, mine too.
It's because everything else is very tonally similar, and that's like the color highlight.
Yeah, I know. And then there's this like pink nipple.
Your pink nipple in this suit is the color highlight. That's not okay.
And it's like doing this like eye thing for me. Like that's its eye now.
Yeah, it takes emphasis
Now
away
it's
from
like
the eyes.
a smiley face, and that's its eye.
I like the little highlight they put in the eye, but it's like it's almost not enough because everything is so similarly tonal that like again, this is nice work. It's just so similar everywhere. I'm begging for you to put some color in somewhere for some separation.
Rem is the #1 fan of color.
Well, even if you just do some highlights, right? Like black and gray with color highlights is fine. It's I don't know why people are so scared.
Or like that. I like that kind of like fun glowy thing that
do
people
something.
throw in there. I think that's fun.
Right now, the nipple is the star of the show. So